This is a very innovative company that is also involved in different conferences. For a long time, they've been among the partners and organizers of Translation Forum Russia. Now they are developing their own project, Locket in Moscow. They've also always been well known for being having to do with technology and trends, and the person that we will hear in the personal experience of CEO. And the floor is yours, Demid. What I do is I travel to different translation companies, conferences a lot, and I've always spoken on technologies, on the management and quality assurance and quality assessment and human resources management, but this story will be totally different. This will be a story on my personal psychological experience, and it helped me. I have been able to cope with my internal problems and how this reflected on the situation in the company. I will not have any slides here. The story goes like that. In early 2013, I felt kind of depressed, different with the symptoms, like with the symptoms as follows: no energy, you feel exhausted all day long. You feel down emotionally. You're not happy with yourself. You feel pessimistic about everything you do, and I have problems with attention span and concentrating my attention. For half of the day you spend on Facebook. I think that we all of us have these periods, but when this lasts 6 months or a year, this we can say that this is quite a problem. The two reasons were absolutely on the surface. No analysis was needed. This is inefficient time management, very weak delegation of authorities, and secondly, problems with in relations with interaction with other people, including partners and team members. A bit more details on that. Inefficient time management. During our first 3 years of our existence, I was the corporate manager as the co-founder. Then we passed through the financial crisis, and we employed a professional CEO who structured all the processes in the offices very well, who introduced the democratic management style, and we got a very comprehensive strategy, and always fine. His name was Yuri, but in 2012 he moved to Canada, and even though we did not really have the demand for really authoritarian management, I still decided to get involved into management again. And a few examples of how it looked. Didn't take any advice from anyone. I tried to rely on my vision, and I reorganized the company. We founded a specific department on quality control. That this office is only works on quality control, and that's it. And the system proved to be unviable, and I had to dissolve this department. I'm speaking about my personal experience more than about the reasons for dissolving this department, or else I developed the policy to review the salary, the employee's salary, even though we had a very good CFO who had developed a very a very good structure, and the structure, with my contribution, the structure became incomprehensible. And I also tried to redesign the offices, and we have 5 employees, and of course, if we want to develop, the CEO has to be more involved in strategy than in day-to-day management. And conflicts, as for the conflicts with people, I was constantly not happy about people around me, from politics to our president and things like that. I was not happy about that, but in fact, the president is somewhere far away in Moscow, and I'm in Samara. We're not friends, and we're not so personally related anyway. But if we do not take this, then we can focus on relations with colleagues. I mentioned Yuri, and this is the most efficient person I ever met in my life. He's among business people and management. He consulted mines in Siberia, and he consulted steel mills. He's really a very cool person. As soon as he became our employee, I started envying him, and I started getting annoyed at him, and this feeling grew, and I started to try to press him out of the business very shortly before he moved to Canada, and I would not consult him when taking some serious strategic decisions, and I kind of forgot to involve him into approval of important decisions. In 2013, none of our employees congratulated me on my birthday. And in fact, this is very natural, because I was doing not-for-profit work for a lot of time. I worked in a group that developed the Russian ISO version, and I organized TFR, and the employees, my team didn't see me very often, and didn't really know what I was doing, and that was but natural that they did not congratulate me, but I grew very unhappy when they did not. How old were you? Oh, I think I was about 28 maybe. Now I'm 29. Just for you to know. And my partner Dennis, who's the CFO and the services production director, did not agree with me on many subjects, including the competences production sphere. If I remember on our argument with Dennis on the design of our logo, I think this will be, it was really a shame, but even though this is his scope of responsibility, that I have nothing to do with. What this meant for when I had the conflict with the head of the technical committee from Russia's Rosstandard. And the reason for this conflict was that I thought that this person is not behaving himself, because I had very high standards. In my mind, I had very high standards concerning how people have to behave, but he was not meeting my standards, and that became the reason for the conflict. And I really spent lots of time, I really wasted lots of time on these conflicts that I could have otherwise have spent on achieving my realistic goals, and as a consequence, when I suggested that we should change some strategic process, the employees would just ignore me. And in the early 2013, we found out that the challenge we are facing is the need to replan, to restructure strategically. Our business business is the localization of games, and it's got a lot of very specific aspects. And there was a department that was focused on. We also have a department that focused on other aspects, but localization is 80% of our business, and because we really concentrated on that, we started losing customers, and we had to decide where we have to move to. And it was not the only reason that I had such restrained relations with people, and I somehow felt that I'm a visionary like Steve Jobs, and I kind of communicated this vision to my employees without consulting anyone, and this didn't go anywhere. We were at a deadlock, and we formulated the mission of the company in early 2014, which we could have done a year earlier if we communicated more efficiently. That's the group of problems, the area of issues that we face, and business challenges also have to do with that. I will write, I'll put all correct here. And what I did with that was I logically decided that I have to help myself, and the decision was again in the surface. I had to admit that I overestimated my incompetence, because I thought that I know everything as a co-founder. So you can see this very proud person who's very cool here. I could see that there's something wrong here. I think that I'm the smartest guy here, but I face a lot of critique and nothing works. And so I decided to dwell on my strengths and weaknesses. I started reading literature, and I came across a model of roles in a team by Belkin. This model has existed for many years. This is a British researcher. He distinguished 9 typical roles in a team: 3 social, 3 action, and 3 thinking roles. Each person has their own profile, and but the number of prevailing roles will be 2 or 3. Of course, they will not be pure, but we'll have to define our roles and understand very clearly what we have to delegate to other people. And this self-analysis shows different results if we compare it to tests. There are tests on Belkin.com, and the test showed that my key role is shaper, which is an action role, as a person who can do something who can create something that somehow works, and then delegate it to other managers who will then improve that and structure it better. And also a role who can look at an issue from different sides and see risks. When I started, I thought that my key role was a resource investigator, such as a person who walks around and looks for people for development of the company, or as a brainstorm person who has a lot of ideas and who's normally a source of basic concepts. But it turned out that it's not so. That's the conclusion here, is that you have to remember that what you think of yourself is very often different from what is in reality. The same range includes other challenges. I asked other people in somewhere in an official environment. I asked them to tell me what's wrong, what do I do well, what I'm keen on, what I don't do well, and I put it down. I took note of that, and then I revisited my job description. Even if you are a business owner, you have to have a job description. But it's not because some inspector might come and check, but because this helps you structure your work better. I review my job description each year, but when I did that last time, I delegated the control of the operation of IT, accounting, and lawyers to other people. It's not my responsibility now to set targets for them. What else we got here? What helped me is that there's a good MMPI test. Maybe you have heard about that. The proficiency test. It's got about 600 questions, and most of them you can answer yes or no. Most of them are yes or no questions. And I saw that what is recommended to me is research or some independent research work, but not human resources management. It's not that it's counterindicated, but it's not indicated either. There are other things that I do better. And this also helps you take a realistic look at you. And there's also a wonderful website which is called Business Balls, no matter how it sounds, but this is a real website, businessballs.co.uk. It's got a lot of resources on management and professional and personal development. And this also includes a management skill assessment form with a list of about 20 typical skills that a manager can have. We can add up to this list, and you can attribute a priority or importance for your position, and you can give a grade to yourself, showing the skills between 1 to 10 and 10. And you, in addition to doing that, you have to ask for a peer opinion from a partner or a company manager, and this gives you a very good picture of your strengths and weaknesses, and also shows your priorities, what you have to start with. This is a very useful thing. And there's also a very good coach, Kachkin. I didn't remember the website, but he also has distinguishes 7 typical competences of a manager or a CEO, and you can go through a test, and you can draw a kind of scale for your strengths and weaknesses. This was what my self-analysis consisted from, and it helped me to get rid of overestimation of my strength and to get my psychological state to be more psychologically stable or secure. The next step was I asked for advice from someone who's much better than me in terms of personal development. This is not a coach. This is my brother. He's a very cool person, but this is not because he's very proud or he boasts of his achievements, but he's very successful. He does achieve. Has indeed achieved a lot in life, and he's someone who you will want to consult. And he says it's his mission in life to help people grow. But you can only do that if someone comes and asks him for help. So if you need some piece of advice, you can always contact him in Samara. And what he advised me additionally was I have to admit, without any reservations, the strong points in people around me, and I had to formalize that. I had to put it down on paper. I had to really talk about it. I have to do that in personal communication with this person. I had to communicate that to them, I had to say to them, okay, you're the best freelancer I know, and I had to do that in writing. I had to write, I'm not keen on that, and you are. When you recognize competences of other employees, you indeed burn the bridge because you recognize, you admit, and you write it down, and you kind of let go. You admit that you don't have to be responsible for each bit and piece. Otherwise, you will not survive. You will just blow up. Otherwise, others can do that. But you can only admit that when you speak about it. You get less. You're less prone to arguing with someone, and you really tend to trust this person. When I discussed what had happened with Yuri, this person, and I admitted, and I mentioned in one conversation that okay, we were working on this structure, and I think I failed here. I think I kind of missed this point, and if we get a new manager, they will need that. And he said, okay, I will do that. So that's how he helped me overcome this challenge. And the second point is working with admitting. Well, so the second point was admitting competences of other people. This includes admitting your own competences. To do that, you need to get confirmation from someone else. I didn't do that, but you might want to do that. If you have strength, you might want to get confirmation, certification of that. You might go to some training. You might pass a test. You might want to have a certificate to make sure that you have a certificate, something that certifies that you are the coolest person who knows English best, or things like that. The most interesting thing here might be to identify where you idealize yourself. There's a psychologist named Alexander Sviyash who's got a very contradictory reputation because he gives quite a lot of notorious pieces of advice, even though he's quite a good psychologist, and the basis of his system is working with your idealization. And idealization is our idea of something, of how something has to be, of how something has to happen. And this is also an idea that gives you constant pain, constant moral pain. Like you have this idealization that people have to use four-letter words all the time, and you didn't, that people use four-letter words all the time, and you do not use four-letter words, and you cannot stand hearing people use four-letter words, and you become kind of paranoid about people using four-letter words, and you start telling other people, you start preaching to other people that you have to stop using four-letter words. Or idealization of money. Money is all important, and everyone has to have a lot of money. As for me, my idealization was about my own strengths. I kind of thought I know everything about translations, about marketing, about finance, and everything else. And there are methods to work with idealization. You can get a diary, and you can write down the events that cause negative emotions. You describe the events. You describe the emotions. You try to find out which kind of idealization it was. And there are also additional ways, like trying to replace this with something absolutely different. People have to, like the phrase, people have to use four-letter words. You admit that, okay, everyone has to use four-letter words because this gives way to your emotions. And so if you get a if you find yourself in a position which is totally opposite to yours, then you will at least try to step from your own, try to think out of your box. And there's also there's another way to work with your emotions by trying to get pleasure from them. You feel uncomfortable, you feel ill at ease, but at the same time you can feel emotions. You are alive, and even if you get negative emotions, these are still emotions, and this really helps. In addition to idealizing my own strengths, my own skills, I identified the idealization of sensible behavior. Idealization of sensible behavior. What I mean by that is that ideally, people have to work using their their common sense and their logic. But when you come to a supermarket and someone at the cash desk says some kind of nonsense to you, you feel annoyed and you say, this is rubbish. But we know that 90% of people act irrationally in 90% of cases based on their ideas that they got from their childhood. And this is not so. And you shouldn't expect people to act rational all the time, or idealizing some behavior standards. I thought that a public servant is someone who has to help other people develop their businesses. For example, in the technical committee there are 55 departments, and they have to help me. But in fact, these officials, these public servants, do not even think about me. They have totally different challenges. They live in a totally different world, and that's how conflicts arise. And idealization of excellence, idealization of perfection is as well something where you think that everything has to be brought up to a standard. And I did not have the right to make a mistake. And I had to say, I did not say this, I did not say that, I did not work perfectly here, I did not act perfectly in that situation. And I try, and this really nags at me. And when I stop doing that, it really helps me improve my relations with my colleagues and with other people in general. One of my idealizations was when I thought that if I'm a CEO, it means that all the employees in my team have to know everything about my birthday and have to congratulate me on my birthday and have to respect each decision that I make. Well, that's something like that, and these were the ways I used, the methods I used that helped me cope with my challenges. My emotional state has improved, but it was still unstable. It was with its ups and downs. And just like in a fairy tale, I met a friend who's much older than me, is a businessman, and we discussed what was happening, and I also found other points where I could improve. Thus, he mentioned that one of my other problems is emotional dependence on the opinions of other people. For example, someone says to me, "You're a fool. What you say now is complete bullshit, and it's got no sense." And a year ago, I would have been disappointed and upset, and I would spend a lot of time thinking cyclically on what I did wrong. But in fact, this has to do with psychological dependence. That's how we will draw this guy who's very unhappy and very upset. What really helped me was a website of a psychologist named Oleg Satov. He's a consultant. He's also a coach, and there are lots of articles there. I read quite a lot of articles from his website, and I spent a couple couple of days, feeling that I do go a level up. You really depend less on what other people think or say, and it's not necessarily that someone comes with a problem and you resonate with this person. And if you remember this story with the resonance and the bridge, where the bridge falls down. When, for example, my mom calls me with a problem, on the one hand I can understand her and I can support her when something bad is happening with in her personal life, but on the other, at the same time I will not have to get emotionally involved. I will, if I'm able to remain calm, then I will be able to this person will also cool down. But if this person is emotionally, but if you get emotionally involved, then the emotional circle will go on and on and on for both participants of the communication. If we talk about aggression, I was not really good about controlling my aggression. I knew that I had to control my emotions better. By way of an example, you walk down the street and someone is calling you or trying to tell you something. If you're not really taught to go into conflict, you will pretend that nothing happened and will just walk by. But as you turn around the corner, you will start thinking, that's how I could have answered. That's so bad of him to have told me that. And then you cannot give up this idea. You cannot let go. You keep sharing this with other people, and you keep discussing with them how you could have acted. The way it could be quite simple. You can tell this person, just leave me alone, or you can turn around the corner and maybe give way to your emotions, and there are also other ways to control your emotions. So far, I'm not really got to this, but someone I talked with advised me the book by Stevens, a kind of Tame Your Dragons, but so far I cannot recommend it because I myself have not read it. And as for Oleg Satov, his website helped me stabilize my emotional state. It's very rarely that I come home now saying to my wife that, okay, the day was bad and everything was bad and I'm not happy with people and I'm not happy with myself and so on. And the one more thing that has that is directly related to my emotions, I will write this running man here. This is sport. This is about sport. This is about car. You tend to forget about that when you work too much. Sex is also good. There's never too much sex. And other type of physical activity, like practicing in a gym or walking your dog or any type of physical activity will be good. And and to sum up, by way of conclusion, I will not draw a picture like that. But okay, I will. That's how my condition has improved. Why do we talk about this in this channel? Is because this has reflected on the situation in the company. I moderated 8 strategic meetings in the company. We formulated the success factors for us 4 departments, and I was not really pressuring anyone. I just moderated, and I elicited a lot of cool ideas from people. But before that, I tended to be afraid of people saying something wrong. But in fact, if people have views that conflict yours, then there might be something wrong with you or with the company, or maybe but in fact, if you are afraid that your employees will come up with ideas that will drastically differ from your approaches to business, then there might be something wrong with you. And people really did give me wonderful ideas. And now, what I'm good at now is I can moderate meetings on mission, and I can offer this as a service now, and we can discuss. This really works because we formulated 4 missions, and we can formulate a 5th one for someone else. And what else we did was we set targets for 2014. We set targets, and we draw the tree of the goals tree. And in this year, we involved the team members more actively, and the people set their targets for 6 months themselves. We didn't have to really boss them around. We didn't have to pressure them, to put pressure on them to do that. They did that themselves, and we started a changing process more actively. Some time ago, I tried to communicate the idea that we have to change that we have to set up more detailed technical translation assignments, but the people did not want to accept that. But as soon as I started, as soon as I eased my pressure, people started offering me the same ideas. They started offering me style guides and ideas for descriptions of punctuations, and I can indeed see that my employees enjoy working with me now. We changed the approach to celebrating birthdays. We used to celebrate birthdays in a very standard way, just bringing a cake and saying and everyone saying happy birthday. And there are 80 people, and there is too much of these birthdays. But someone offered to celebrate a team birthday, a birthday of several people each month, and then when we tried that, we really liked the idea. And the main conclusion for me from this whole story was that it's not that there are things that you can influence or you cannot influence. This is not really true. You cannot really distinguish between such things. There's one specific point. You cannot change anything around you. You cannot change anyone around you. You can only change yourself, and that is what any company owner, any company CEO can really work on. And that's what will change yourself, and that's what will change your company and your colleagues. And this will tell on your mimics, on your intonations, and people will feel that this does change your life indeed. And that's why I wish all of you to be emotionally independent and to be in the process of constant improvement. And special thanks to all my colleagues who had patience with me. They might have not noticed that, but as for my wife, she couldn't but have noticed that, because I kept telling her about that all the time. And thanks for your attention. Thank you for listening to me. Any questions from the audience? Michael, Kiev. What I want to ask is, you can't see the difference in your face from my personal observations. I changed my haircut. Why did you start looking for that? Because you were not happy with yourself, or because others were not happy with you? Why did you start looking for ways out? But it's very hard to live like that. Maybe it's because I wanted to survive. So at some point, I just saw that I had to do something. I could consult a doctor. I could go to a clinic. Everyone, we all have our own ways. That's what I share. That's what I wanted to share with you. Why I decided to share it with you was just it was because I was invited to UTIC as a speaker, and I thought I didn't want to speak about company management, about standards, about quality. It's because I wanted to share with you something that I find very interesting. That was really cool, what she's helped me. But what if someone in your company feels like that, and not one, but 3 or 4 of them? You cannot impose this systemic approach on them. You cannot really push them to go to psychologists. What you have to do is maybe talk to people, have lunch together, ask questions. But there are people who are introverted, and you cannot really ask them questions. And what I can do is maybe I can share this the same in my office, and maybe someone will find it useful. I did notice that in my employees that people become less active. The people become exhausted and lose energy, and you seem to be running around, and the others will look at you like, what's this fool doing? We tried to use Kanban, which is a Japanese system. If you try to introduce that, you will get an indicator of something getting wrong. It's specific. It's for a purpose that I mentioned. Yuri is a 6 Sigma black belt in karate, and he's a guru of lean production. And Toyota Wakefield book is in our office. We know about Kanban and things like that. Thank you. I do advise that to everyone. I asked Demid how old he was when I mentioned that. He was so sad last year, and he said he was 28. I'm 56, and now sometimes I feel the same. And there are crises in life that happen every 7 years. It's like you change your skin, and we all it goes in cycles, and we tend to face the same challenges over and over again. And it's very important to admit this to yourself at some point. We're at the top of the pyramid as CEOs, and to manage other people, you have to improve yourself. You have to admit your own strengths and weaknesses, and control your own emotions. You have to help yourself first of all, and then you can help others. What Demid told us was how he was looking for information and finding it in literature and on websites. And his success stories has to do with the fact that he overcame this crisis, and this year he's happy. He looks happy, and we can congratulate him. It's not reading books that is the key point. It's mainly talking to people who are much better than you. This will be the turning point here. Thank you. And my last question to you, Demid, will be like that. Do you agree that with this phrase, the crisis of the owner, the personality crisis of an owner, cannot but tell on the crisis of a business? Yes, absolutely. So was the case in your business? That's true. There are of course different types of owners who are, for example, investing money and then just leave the business to other people. Can you tell me about your first symptoms from your own experience in business or in yourself that could lead to negative consequences? I didn't mention that at the start. It's easy that if you keep carrying heavy sacks all day long and you're tired, this makes sense. But if you go to an office for 3 months in a row and you feel pessimistic, you're not happy with yourself or with other people, you don't get enough sleep, you get tired, you are kind of squeezed, you're out, you're exhausted, you cannot focus on anything. This would seem to be like symptoms. But how long was it before you admitted that? Maybe a year or so. Okay, thank you, Demid, for being so open with us. I think this will be really helpful.